Serious people of Reddit, what is scariest thing that happened to you that was not paranormal? IF was traveling in Egypt with two male friends. All of us 17/18ths at the time 1989. We were walking down the street in Alexandria and two men got out of a black car, grabbed me and threw me inside. My friends jumped onto the car and held on while it tried to drive away. Then other people started crowding around it and shouting. So they opened the door and shoved me back out and just drove away. Now those are some good friends. No kidding. I love you forever. Jason and Steve. I was badly bitten by a dog when I was 10. I lost a lot of blood, but I was under my grandmother's supervision. And that poor lady panicked at the slightest bit of something being maybe not okay. I mean, I saw her panic for a bee looking like it might enter the house. Or because she had heard someone break hard down the street. So when she saw me with half of my upper lip falling off, and blood everywhere, she screamed and screamed, and screamed, and panicked. So I panicked even more as well. Not really because she panicked. I already knew that my grandmother's reactions weren't really telling of the situation's gravity. But because I thought I was beeped because there was no one to help and care for me. Now, this was the scariest part of it all actually. I mean, the bite and the blood were scary. But thinking that I was on my own with a severe injury, with no idea of what to do, and unable to communicate was downright frightening. However, our screams alerted my neighbor, who was a very calm man, and kept his head and took care of me until EMT came in. I've been told that he did have a panic attack afterward. The poor man. I woke up feeling sticky and gross. I thought to myself, gross. Did I drool all over myself while sleeping? So I go to the bathroom to wash up and look in the mirror. I'm covered from my lower lip to upper chest in blood. I head out of the bathroom toward the kitchen and tell my mother to call a doctor. She nearly faints upon seeing me, but I tell her I'm okay and I am a wash up. I clean myself up, and after washing most of it away I see the wound dead center on my neck where a pimple was. It is doing the thing you see in movies where blood squirts out with each heartbeat. A band-aid does the trick for now, and they cauterize my neck as a longer solution. What I had thought was a pimple was in fact a blood vessel that decided to make a Y branch, except the new branch was straight out my neck. A simple surgery fixed it, but damn was that scary. I was the victim of an attempted kidnapping when I was 11. What made it worse was that I was standing across the street from my house. I went to dinner at my friend's house a few houses down and across the street. After dinner I walked back home as I had done many times before. I was right across the street looking at my house, waiting to cross because a car was coming. It was a white van that came to a stop right in front of me. A guy rolled the driver's window down and told me to come here. I shook my head no. Someone opened the rear sliding door and began getting out. Remember all those videos you watch as a kid telling you what to do in these situations? I forgot all of it in that moment and froze. I was paralyzed with fear for a moment until my flight response finally kicked in. I yelled no at the top of my lungs and started running back to my friend's house. Thankfully her dad was out working in the front yard. The van did a U-turn and the tires screeched as they peeled out of there. My friend's dad called the cops and walked me back home, where the cops came to get a report. The very next day there was a news report that a young girl was kidnapped from a nearby community by a vehicle matching the description of the one that tried to take me. They were eventually stopped trying to get into Mexico with the kid. This happened in southern Arizona. When I was in college, I had gone to a classmate's apartment for a group study session. The area was crowded with cars parked along the curve. Took me a while to find parking, and it was about 2 blocks away. By the time I left to go home, it was around 1 a.m. As I was walking back to my car, I heard footsteps behind me. I looked back and saw someone in a big coat and wearing a hat. It was dark, so I couldn't see their face. I got a little creeped out, so I quickened my pace. Again, I heard their pace quicken as well. I began to feel scared, but I didn't want to convey that to him. So I just kept walking and occasionally would look back and see him about 10 feet behind, following. As I approached my car, I took out my keys and got ready to unlock just the driver door. Instead of using the remote, I quickly got in and locked the door. And he stood right in front of the passenger door just looking at me. I turned the car on and right when I was about to leave, he waved. But in a very slow, creepy way. May 10, 2019. I was turning into the end of my street when a dump truck rear-ended me, pushing me head-on into oncoming traffic where I hit another car. The dump driver was texting and never hit his brakes. He was going 60 miles per hour. Technically I was dead. A cop was 2 cars back. He pulled me from the wreckage and performed CPR, reviving me. I was medevaced away. I remained in a coma for 42 days where I expired twice more. I awoke to be a paraplegic, dozing off for a split second while driving, which led to a panicked overreaction to my tires moving into the gravel on the shoulder of the roadway. My overreaction jerked the SUV back onto the roadway so fast that it turned a 40-degree angle and then flipped 4-5 times, rolling down the interstate about a quarter of a mile. I was conscious through it all, including the 2 bounces of my head against the asphalt. Vehicle came to rest in the ditch and I climbed out in a panic over what just happened. 737 I was on encountered a coincidence of air currents and jet wash from a plane ahead of us on approach. We were fairly close to the ground and the plane turned beeping sideways. One wing pointed at the ground, the other at the sky. Happily the pilot recovered and we were fine. But for a moment I had calmly accepted that this was how I was going to die. I went to my job, a grocery store, to pick up my check and this guy walked in behind me. I went and grabbed something to buy and he was behind me again in the line with nothing in his hand. He finally picked up a thing of gum and when I walked out the store, he put the gum back and followed me out. Once I got to my door of my car I quickly got inside and locked the door to find him right behind me and acting like the car next to mine was his. When I guess he realized I wasn't in his reach, he went back inside the store. It might not seem so scary to most, but I had a full-blown panic attack in my car that day. The first one that comes to memory is at my old job as an overnight nurse at a veterinary hospital. It was just me and one other nurse at about 4 a.m. in a fully locked hospital taking care of hospitalized pets. My coworker had gone upstairs to take a food break, and I suddenly hear the outside door close. 2 men carrying rifles with their faces partially covered and wearing lots of insulated clothing walked into the treatment area. I froze, trying to consider all the options of heavy items I could hit them with. They started laughing and then I realized it was 2 of my coworkers. They had met in the parking lot to go on a hunting trip and thought they would come in and say hi. They got some choice words from me and a stapler almost thrown at their heads. I used to walk my dog pretty late, like 2 in the morning, because of my work schedule. I would take her to the dog park at the end of our walk to run around and burn off energy before bed. After COVID lockdowns happened, the lights that used to illuminate the park got shut off, so I had to rely on just a flashlight to see. So one night, I take her to the park as usual, close the fade, unclip her leash, and she stands stock still, staring at something in the distance. I thought it was weird, so I shine my flashlight in that direction. Next to the dog park is a huge empty field that leads to some woods. So I expected a deer or something. Nope. There's some person walking across the field. Right toward the park. When I shone my light at them, the person started running toward me. I freaked out, picked up my dog, and sprinted all the way home. I don't know what the beep that was all about. But I'm a very weak, tiny girl. So I didn't want to risk anything. My BF walks the dog at night now. Trigger warning for rape and abuse. My ex raped me. When I was left crying and broken, I told him I was leaving him. He grabbed the sides of my face and looked me in my eyes and told me if I tried to leave he would kill me. Then he would chop my body into tiny pieces. Put them in Ziploc bags. Put them in a cooler and go on a road trip cross country. Throwing the pieces out along the way so no one would ever find me. It took me 3 more months to get an escape plan together and move across the country to get away from him. And once this pandemic is over, I'm moving to another continent. I was driving to work in a pretty substantial snowstorm. I ran over something hidden in the snow and it immediately flattened my tire, causing my car to spin out. While I was trying to regain control, another car hit me right in the driver's side door at about 50 miles per hour. Pushed my car right into a concrete barrier. And the force pushed me and the driver's seat into where the passenger's seat is. That was almost 10 years ago. And I still get anxiety driving in the snow.